Well, that process is still in its infancy. Fortunately for the city of Arcadia, they are also the water provider, so that it provides them a little more flexibility for implementing these programs, but also tracking what they're putting in the ground and potentially claiming a credit for it. Los Angeles River Basin is, it's been subject to litigation for over 100 years. So obviously every drop is spoken for. If we're adding water to the system, we believe we should be getting something back out of that. One of the other benefits for those
But also that the new law last year, AB 2403, enables Arcadia then to modify water rates to enhance stormwater recharge projects. Have you been looking at that?
That's exactly where I was going. Those cities that are water providers do have that added ability to as long as the projects actually provide a water supply benefit, to recover some of those costs that way. Claremont is not in the same boat. They don't provide water in their city. They're in a dispute with Golden State Water. Right, they want to, and maybe through, in a few years they'll be able to, and they'll be in that boat. But until then, they're going to be, stuck with infiltrating and doing what they can through the WMP process, but they won't be able to recover the costs as a water supply benefit. So,
I appreciate the discussion.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tahir, 10 minutes. Well, we were going to go to city council members. Okay, sure. We can take, yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Do we have those? Can you pull those cards out separately? Okay, got it. Okay.
Mayor Marcus and board, it's a pleasure to be here today to be able to speak with you. My name is Judy Nelson. I'm a council member for the city of Glendora. And our city is a 52,000 population up against the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. And we are a member of the Upper San Gabriel River EWIMP. We have supported the concept of clean water for many, many years, and we actually have implemented infrastructure projects far in advance of what has been required with the previous permit. So I want you to know that we really appreciate what you're working toward with this plan. In 2013, we joined an EWIMP in order to comply with the permit, and at that time we anticipated that the costs would be somewhere less than $1 million a year. And we wondered how we would fund that, and we did speak at an earlier LA Regional Water Quality Control Board about that. Just recently, we received our presentation from our consultant, and we're told that our costs were probably $95 million over 10 years. That would be a third of our general fund, which is $26 million. It would be about $9 million a year. So we're now looking at how do we pay for this? And we are, of course, looking at grants. However, we're not a disadvantaged city. Getting grants is very difficult. The water bond money, I believe about $1 billion is going toward funding for this stormwater. And in LA County, well, just our EWIMP alone is about $1 billion. So it would be very difficult for cities in the region to be able to get enough funding to cover that. And citizens have made it pretty clear in the past that they're not interested in paying additional fees or taxes, and to tax to the amount that it's costing these cities, our city included. I don't see that you can ask citizens to come up with that much money. So how to fund it is very troubling. And cutting our general fund, or taking a third of our general fund money to pay for this, means reducing police, closing the library, etc. So it is very troubling. We have a few suggestions that could be helpful, and one of them was extending the time limit for compliance, which was discussed. Another one is implementing a method for cities to partner with Caltrans. Just as we currently partner with LA County Department of Public Works, this would definitely increase efficiency in what we're doing and also lower costs for everyone. And I know it would be complicated, but it would certainly be helpful to be able to do that.
Oh, we gave credit to Caltrans and their permit for cooperating with others, so that's something we have already thought about.
Haven't really seen a method to partner. And lastly, to begin implementation of financial guidelines similar to the financial capability assessment that the USPA has employed since 1997. The FCA process does not waive requirements, but searches for the most cost-effective programs and allows sufficient time for a community to fund and to implement new water quality programs. The FCA should not be seen as anti-regulation, since the best regulations can be designed to be environmentally effective and to achieve their objectives at low cost. And I know you're familiar with that, Chair Marcus. Examples of highly effective low-cost regulations include controlling particulate matter and air pollution and reducing lead levels in drinking water. I know that this would come from a legislative perspective, but what we're turning toward the board is to please assist with that process. We want to thank you, the City of Glendora. Thank you very much for hearing our concerns and for the opportunity to be here today.
For joining us. I am a little concerned about, it's hard for us to deal with a cost estimate that you may have gotten that may be really high, because the numbers you're quoting seem really high to me. And so it's hard for us to figure out how to deal with that. I just want to, staff, because you've done a basic analysis, obviously the lowest cost thing that does the job is what you want folks to do. And in the enhanced watershed, you're looking at multiple benefits. So you are looking at different pots of money as the earlier conversation, but I'm not quite sure how to deal with that in the context of this appeal. I'm looking at you guys, but either of you.
Well,
I mean, I
have to
can't
say,
without second guessing them.
you know, from my perspective, it's sort of the flip side of what the environmental petitioners want us to do, is to look at the actual implementation of the permit now. We don't have these numbers. We don't know what the projects are that the numbers were estimated for. I expect that those, you know, these are EWIMPs, so they're not yet even due to the regional board yet. But as the next phase, as the next step of implementing the permit goes forward, then I very much expect that we'll be hearing about specific projects and actual cost estimates, as well as what how those cost estimates are really raising hurdles for the cities. But again, we don't have any of this information ourselves. It's not currently in front of the board.
Thank you.
Our consultant gave us very specific plans of these are the projects, these are the costs. And I did speak with a consultant who's working with two other EWIMPs and one WIMP in a different region of LA County, and he confirmed that this was right in the ballpark. Our costs were right in the ballpark with all the other cities at this time.
I couldn't take notice of that without looking at it myself, because frankly, I've changed cost estimates when I ran a public works department that were insanely high that I got, because people were looking at every contingency. So the devil's in the details. I just don't want you to be over worried. We actually want you to be able to do something that's going to enhance your community and meet these objectives. That's the whole point of this. So
and I hope our costs are too high. I would be very happy to find that they are. Thank you.
I appreciate these comments. I mean, this is an area of interest to me. The California Water Action Plan, action number 10 of the 10 actions, speaks very specifically to the financing of infrastructure improvements for water. And I also called to attention recent SB 625, I believe it is, which is the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District legislation, which takes a step from redevelopment type principles, but is an opportunity to bring in tax increment financing to stormwater infrastructure development that would benefit flood control and drainage, you know, all those issues, but also have these multiple benefits of greening the city, reducing pollution from stormwater, and recharging the groundwater. So these are tools that are under development. It's kind of a fast-moving world these days, but I just encourage communities to look into them, see if they're a good fit. I'm not saying one size will fit all here, but also, as was mentioned, we're trying to create mechanisms within, like the Caltrans permit, for instance, to incentivize these type of partnerships. Because in the end, those cost estimates, as Chair Marcus says, they can be developed in a vacuum and sometimes don't take into account issues like life cycle costs. You know, the traditional drainage on a street in its life cycle is actually more expensive than green infrastructure, according to some detailed analyses out there. So it's a time of growth and learning, but I just want to encourage you. It also points out the peril of financing drainage infrastructure on the general fund. You know, and I think those are statewide discussions that I'm trying to encourage that to rethink how our water infrastructure is defined and financed. And I think it's right in line with Water Action Plan number 10, action number 10.
Good. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, though, for that presentation.
Good staff. I think that one of the best things about this is that there is flexibility and recognition of local circumstances. And so could you point out any language? I'm just flipping through here. Could you point out any language that could help to provide some reassurance that these issues would be looked at the regional board level?
Did you want the regional board to speak to it, or you're looking through our order?
Fine, as well. Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, if you guys want to come up and answer it also, go ahead. But so the watershed management programs and enhanced management programs are built with the understanding that compliance is achieved over time. And one of the considerations in the proposals is the permittees are proposing reasonable measures that can be implemented over time. And I think the reason that we're going with these types of programs over immediate compliance with receiving water limitations is in part because both the cost considerations and the feasibility of actually achieving that kind of immediate compliance. So they're intended to provide that type of flexibility. And I'll let the regional board take it from there.
Jennifer Fordyce. Whoa. Okay. I think it's broken.
I'll hold it for you. I'll hold it for you.
Take that out of the regional board's budget.
Here. I'm gonna MacGyver it.
Oh, you already had.
Well done. Well done. You get an engineering degree.
I'm a MacGyver person, so. So we want to make sure we understand your question. So you want to know if there's any places in the permit where we can take into account costs. Okay, so one area is through the annual reporting that they're going to be reporting their costs to us. And so that's definitely one area.
The other area where I think that can be taken into consideration is when permittees are basically developing schedules for achieving receiving water limitations. They're required to achieve those receiving water limitations as soon as possible. And there are a number of considerations that go into that determination of as soon as possible. And some of those are technical, some of those are financial considerations, given the other priorities that need to be achieved. So that's another place that in terms of the timing and sequencing of actions, they consider the total cost and how they can basically spread that cost out over time in order to be able to actually manage that.
Can I just add one other, I guess, cost point for your consideration? Last week I attended the City of Los Angeles' Environment and Subcommittee when they essentially took up the matter of whether they would, how they were going to respond to this or to the permit before you. And the cost that was reported to essentially implement all the TMDLs and this MS4 permit was quoted at $54 per year per residential parcel in the City of Los Angeles. So that comes out to $4.50 per month. And I had a further discussion with the Deputy Director yesterday to get some greater understanding of that number. And basically it said that discounted any sort of commercial or other infrastructure types of funding that would come into it. That would be essentially taking care of the entire, the TMDL load and the MS4 compliance load in perpetuity at $54 per year per household. So,
Jonathan, do you want to clarify about Caltrans?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that the councilwoman knew, and anyone else in the that the existing Caltrans permit encourages them to work jointly with other MS4s to do joint compliance, and I have in the past, and I'm very happy to in the future to convene a meeting between MS4s and Caltrans to promote that cooperation if Caltrans is reluctant, as they are sometimes, to actually meet. But, and in addition to that, we are working with Caltrans to develop a grant program. That program is not yet in place, but as we move forward so that Caltrans could provide funding for joint projects directly to MS4s.
Last thing I would add is sometimes when we get some of these cost estimates, it's really very hard for us to determine whether they're solely attributable to the LA County MS permit or whether some of these costs were attributed to requirements before the permits were ever adopted. So storm drain maintenance, trash
I'm sure
litter.
that's true. So, I had to fight that every other month.
And we did discuss that in our water code section 1324 analysis in the fact sheet. So we just want to point that out.
And that kind of speaks to the issue that it is an infrastructure O&M challenge that exists now. There are storm drain master plans, and in your staff work, are those storm drain master plans integrated into some of these WIMP and EWIMP submittals?
I mean, I would say at this point, I don't know that they're fully integrated within the WIMP and the EWIMPs, but certainly there is a lot of further investigation and characterization of the MS4s within these jurisdictions. So I think that there will be more integration, or where there's not a stormwater master plan, I think this provides an opportunity to develop one and have the two things integrated together over time.
I was just going to add that the key element to the stormwater master plan in LA County, or at least where there are TMDLs involved for trash, is the catch screens, and our board has just taken that up. There's been certainly in most areas, in many areas I should say, it's a high percentage of the catch basins have been outfitted with trash screens at this point in MS4 areas that essentially drain to waters that are covered by a trash TMDL.
Great. I'm mindful of the time. We're not going to finish this before lunch because I think we want to consider it, and we'll probably have particular questions for staff. I want to be able to take the lunch break, and I want you to be able to put up a notice to the people who we said we wouldn't start before 1 with the next item, but I want a sense of when we should next so they can go get coffee or do whatever they're going to do. I want to take at least a half hour, if not more. 45 minutes, is that okay? I'm looking at you, Janine. You get to be the judge. I could use an hour, too, because there's just work to be 45 minutes. But I want to take one more speaker, because I do have another elected official, John Capoccia, from the mayor of the city of Sierra Madre, and then we'll take a 45-minute lunch break and come back with Mr. Tahir and the rest of our speakers. We don't have a million of them, but we do have speakers. And then we'll undoubtedly have a fair amount of questions, and we have the 2 returning short-term speakers. So, hi, thank you for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairperson Marcus and members of the State Water Board. I'm John Capoccia. I'm the mayor of Sierra Madre. Sierra Madre is a small 3-square-mile city of 11,000 citizens that's nestled against the San Gabriel Mountains.
You have a constituent right there at the end of that. He's your
really?
Constituent.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me if I'm saying anything untrue. We are an environmentally aware community with a long legacy of activism on environmental issues. This is reflected in our general plan, our Energy, Environmental, and Natural Resources Commission, our efforts to protect our hillsides, and the many accomplishments of our long-standing grassroots citizen-based Sierra Madre Environmental Action Committee. We fully support the goals of the Clean Water Act, which is to ensure that the waterways are safe, clean, and supportive of beneficial uses that enhance the well-being of Southern California residents. Like many cities, we have financial problems. We have a general fund budget of approximately $8 million per year, and we are projecting a $1 million deficit in the 2016-17 fiscal year. What I'm here to talk about is that the Enhanced Watershed Management Plan costs are proving to be impossibly high and out of proportion to the problem that we're committed to solving. For, as Mr. Monet just had mentioned, for the Rio Hondo San Gabriel River Water Quality Group, which consists of Arcadia, Azusa, Bradbury, Duarte, Monrovia, Sierra Madre, and a small part of LA County, the estimated cost is, as he said, just about $1.4 billion. Sierra Madre's cost is $25 million for a town with only $8 million general fund and a looming deficit. We became aware of the cost estimates only recently when our EWIMP consultant presented them to us for the first time. You can imagine our surprise, and I'm hearing that you are also surprised with these costs. The cost estimates are significantly higher than what was understood at the time the LA County Clean Beaches Initiative was proposed. Since that initiative was tabled by the Board of Supervisors because of public outrage, how on earth would the public accept this now given considerably higher estimated costs? It's really a fantasy to expect that a significant portion of the money will come from grants, and voters have historically refused to pay for projects for which they don't understand or appreciate the benefits. That leaves cities in a potential situation where elected officials will have to endanger public safety by decimating police and fire department budgets, skimp on the maintenance of parks, streets, and sidewalks, dramatically reduce or shutter our libraries, and cancel community programs, all so that we can achieve a perfect stormwater capture. I am not alone in believing that this is really not in the general public interest. The EWIMP-WIMP process is presented as an alternative, but in reality it does not provide an achievable path to compliance. Worse yet, the MS4 permit's baseline requirements are far beyond what the EPA and state requires, are more stringent and onerous than any other MS4 permit, and also appear unachievable as written. We are between the proverbial rock and the hard place and are forced into untenable choices. Sierra Madre questions those, or joins those who questions the regional board's authority to impose such unrealistic requirements. Our citizens expect and deserve a clear, achievable, fiscally prudent path to compliance, and you, the State Water Resources Control Board, acting on behalf of federal and state elected officials, have a responsibility to ensure that. Please delay the implementation and conduct another workshop so that these EWIMP costs can be thoroughly and publicly assessed so that realistic, workable paths to compliance can be developed that will achieve the goals of the Clean Water Act, which the City of Sierra Madre wholeheartedly supports. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and we'll be following up with you. All right, we will take a break now for 45 minutes, and Janine, can you put up for the group that lunch is going to be till 45 minutes, but we will not, that's 1:45, but there's no way we're going to probably start the other one until after 3. What, 3?
I would suggest that we strive for 2:30.
I'm not sure we'll make it, so so say we won't start before 2:30, but not to count it. I don't find that credible. Yeah, 3. But they should be back at 2:30 in case. Yeah. I mean, we have to give this the time it deserves, so. Okay.